Today, House Democrats making a new push to release the Ethics Committee report on former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. The committee was slated to meet again today after shelving the report last month. Now, Democratic Congressman Sean Casten is forcing a floor vote on this issue. In a post on X, Casten called for Congress to publish the report, warning that Gaetz should not avoid accountability. But with Republicans holding a slim majority in the House, Democrats will need GOP support to make the controversial report public. Here now, NewsNation Washington Bureau Chief Mike Viqueira. Mike, good morning to you. Gaetz stepped away from public office. He withdrew his nomination for the Attorney General. So why are Democrats still hell-bent on making this public?
Well, hell-bent would be one way to put it. I think Sean Casten and other Democrats simply want to not only embarrass Republicans, let's be honest, but also to release these serious allegations, these salacious allegations, and some of the details. Just to review, of course, Matt Gaetz was the initial pick from President-elect Trump to be the Attorney General. These allegations surfaced, compounded with the fact that Matt Gaetz was not a popular individual, even among Republicans on Capitol Hill, led to that nomination or that prospective nomination to crash and burn. He resigned from Congress somewhere along the way. He said he would not join the next Congress, which convenes January 3rd in just a few weeks. Even though he was elected on November 5th to serve another term in Congress. So what does that mean for all of these investigations now? You had the Department of Justice that was looking into these sex trafficking allegations involving underage minors. They did not pursue those charges, we should hasten to point out. But the Ethics Committee continued with its investigation. Of course, it has a lower standard of proof or a lower threshold to bring charges or to make recommendations to the larger House of Representatives. However, Matt Gaetz is no longer a member of the House, and so under normal circumstances and historical precedent, with very few exceptions, that release, that investigation by the House Ethics Committee would go away. But now Sean Casten, the Democrat, says he's going to bring that to a vote. He's using a special procedure, requires a vote within 48 hours of bringing it to the floor. He did so the day before yesterday. We expect that vote later today. Marni.
So he denies any wrongdoing, and Republicans who believe that and who have seen the report, if that's the case, then why then are they so adamant to keep it under wraps?
That's another good question. And what's really fascinating about the political dynamic and the personal relationships among House members and among House Republicans in particular is because Matt Gaetz, who incidentally was the individual most responsible for pushing out Kevin McCarthy, their antipathy towards one another, their outright hatred and hostility, well known, has spilled out into the public view. It resulted in that series of, 15 votes for Speaker earlier this year, ending up with Mike Johnson holding the Speaker's gavel after much toing and froing, and Matt Gaetz almost coming to blows with a fellow Republican, a Republican chairman, Mike Rogers of Alabama, on the floor of the House of Representatives during all of that. But what we are hearing, Marni, is there's a possibility that they will move to table will Republicans. In other words, put it aside, shove it aside. It's not a direct vote on the meat of the matter on whether to release the report. It's more or less a legislative fig leaf. Vote to table later this week. So it's a question in my mind anyway, Marni, after having watched the House for several years. Are there enough Republicans willing to go along with that, considering the fact that he is an extremely unpopular individual among some segments of the House Republican Conference, Marni?
And how much influence does Trump have in all of this, Mike?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump have been allies. That was really the origin of his nomination to be Attorney General. As John Fetterman, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, put it, God-tier trolling, sending a message to the world and Democrats at large that he's going to put a loyalist like Matt Gaetz, who promised to, tear apart the Department of Justice and what they call the weaponization of the Department of Justice against Donald Trump and his allies. Obviously, that didn't work out. Donald Trump forced to withdraw that nomination. Unclear where Matt Gaetz goes from here and what role Donald Trump, the president-elect, will play in his future career, Marni.
Boy. All right. Interesting stuff. NewsNation Washington Bureau Chief Mike Viqueira, thanks as always. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.